tuned to the source, WOCA.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to learn something, Robin.
Yeah.
William S. Wooditch is on the phone. He is going to teach us about selling. He has a book called Always Forward, Discover the 7 Secrets of Sales Success. Mr. Wooditch is the top salesperson for 2 Fortune 500 companies. Now, if that doesn't give you enough credentials for this topic, holy mackerel. He's the founder and CEO of the Wooditch Group, the founder of the Think Next, Act Now. I think that's a book, right? I'm not so sure. But his book is called Always Forward. No, I don't think that is a book. William Wooditch, good morning, sir. How are you?
Larry and Robin, great. Thank you for the kind words on the introduction.
And where are you? Where are you calling from?
I am calling from, are you ready to be envious? Sunny Southern California. It's going to hit 80 today.
Well, we are envious.
Wow.
We usually are the ones bragging, but yeah, today it's cold here in Florida. So, well, thank you for being on the air with us. Do you know, we couldn't do what we do if the people elsewhere in this radio station didn't sell. And so it's really important to us that sales happen. But in addition to that, Robin and I also sell. So we're all ears when it comes to this, because the truth is we're not as good as the people on the other side of the wall. because they do it every day. So they've seen, I guess, a lot more than we've seen. So how do you become a good, and here's the question I guess I'll start with. We've known many salespeople, and some just rake it in. I mean, they get one after another, and others don't. What are they doing differently than the others?
You know, I'll start with mindset, and when I say mindset, I'll actually go a little further than just mindset. I took sales and flipped the word on its head, and I made it about enrollment. So I stopped thinking about or stopped feeling what sales was, because for me it had a negative connotation when I was a kid, and kind of a black eye for an industry. So I thought, let's break this apart. Let's not go in there and try to sell brochures. Let's not try to just push ourselves and try to get something and give something less in return. Let's make this about enrollment with people, because at the end of the day, it's always about people. You know, you talked about sales and nothing happens on your side of the wall. Well, no payroll can be met unless something is first sold.
That's right.
So I looked at it as enrollment. I looked at being able to be pulled through the portals of experience through another person by being open to whatever could or would happen in that relationship. Because before you can bring your position to a point of sale, to use that word, you have to have a person who's willing to buy from you, who believes in you, who believes that the message is aligned with the messenger.
Okay, but in doing now I've had a similar kind of a response from when I've asked salespeople, how do you the good ones, what do you do that is so different than the others? They will say, I don't sell, I make friends.
Yes.
So let me give you a scenario, and you tell me how you would do this differently. So let's say I'm working as a salesperson. I walk into the deli. I want to sell them a radio ad. Okay. What do I do? Just buy a sandwich?
Find a connection somewhere in the deli. Find a connection with the person. 2 things that worked for me. I asked the person, where are you from? And then from that place, wherever they were from, whether it's Iowa, Chicago, I would ask a little bit about their interests. So I think that you have to have a wide base of interests, because I think it's interesting. People do business with people they like and people who are like them, or people they would like to be like. And I think I would just start a conversation, because even something about the deli sandwich, even just something to say, you know what, you make a damn good sandwich. Just stuff that comes beyond what they know what we're there for. We're there to do something. But if you can transform and really make it just about people and about something other than the principal reason you're there, I found it connects. Another thing that's in the book is it's about activity. It doesn't matter how much if you have activity as your ruler of success, and it was always mine, this is still a numbers game. Larry, it's a numbers game. The more business, the more activity, the more doors we walk into, the more hands we shake, the more people we meet, the more connection. It's still a numbers game. Activity will rule, to a degree, your success.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true too. Yeah. So speak to the person who's thinking about starting their own business, their own entrepreneurial venture. Most of the people who decide to do this have a talent or a passion for something, whether it's making sandwiches or playing music or writing a book. But then when it comes to selling that book, for example, and you've written a book, so you're a perfect example of this. You've written a book, and in your case, you know how to sell it, but most writers don't.
There are some key standards I think that people should examine, and this is an internal examination, and often we dupe ourselves internally because we think we want something externally, and we really don't know what the price is, and we're unwilling to pay the cost because we don't know what it is we want. I've always known this in starting a business, and it was the same in sales, because I think we're all entrepreneurs at heart. I think we work for ourselves. I think the more skills and talents we acquire, the more we can hone and refine, the more value we create for ourselves. And I think that if we play it forward and think, what is it that we must have? What are we willing to do? And really, really understand what it takes to do it. We have to do something the Greeks and the Spanish did, and that's burn our boats. We have to burn our metaphorical boats and have no retreat. See, when the Greeks and the Spaniards invaded islands, they burned the boat, so the plume of smoke behind told the soldiers going forward there was only one way. That way was always forward. You've got to burn your boats. You have to get out there, Larry, with no net. Because if there's a wire, you're working for somebody else. And in sales, you're always working for yourself. You have the chance every day to reinvent yourself. Get rid of the wire. Position yourself to win by putting yourself in play. And you put yourself in play when you become a person that connects with other people.
Makes sense, doesn't it? The book is called Always Forward. I want to make sure that if the listeners have a question that they can call in, the number is 622-9622. William Wooditch is our guest, and my goodness, you've got some credentials here that would make anybody want to pay attention to your advice. The subtitle, by the way, is Discover the 7 Secrets of Sales Success. So can we pick your brain a little bit about the secrets?
Go for it.
Okay, what are they? What would you say is the first one?
Well, I walked into an office, and I had to have a car for sales. I didn't know that. So I think there's a lot that could be done just by not knowing that, you walk into a Fortune 500 company, and you're one of 86 applicants, and they said, well, you need a car. And Mom, I need that station wagon in the driveway. So I walked in, I got my car, opened up a desk. There was a bullpen. There were the remnants of a failed sales campaign. The former occupant had been terminated because he didn't follow rule number 1. And rule number 1 was on a small ruler, and it said activity rules success. I didn't know any better. Straight out of school, I sat there and I thought, well, if my success is contingent upon something, then I'm going to work really, really hard, and I'm going to have a whole lot of activity. So I found out what they wanted, and I did 10, 20 times that. I would go home with cauliflower ears from the phone in those days, up against my ear, because no one was going to outwork me. If I was going to fall on my sword, if I was going to go forward and not make it, it wasn't going to be from lack of effort.
Yeah, and I think I've experienced that in my own life as well. Do you know the one thing that a salesperson has different than the person who, and the entrepreneur, salesperson / entrepreneur, than the person who's got the job you just clock in, is that a salesperson has to constantly sell.
Constantly.
The person who's working for somebody else has to sell himself or herself one time.
Yes.
And that's why the lifestyles are usually different as well.
You're constantly selling in life. There's a psychologist, his name is Daniel Pink, and he has a thesis he supports in a book, and he says everyone sells. So the time you ask your wife out on a date, who's going to take care of the kids, who's going to do this, who's going to do that, you're negotiating for power, you're negotiating for opportunity, you negotiate for time. So we really all do it, we just don't know that there's not a net. But every day in life, you have to move forward, and that's the way of sales. So secret number 1 is really the activity has to rule success, and followed by number 2, if you want me to go into 2.
Yeah, can we put that on hold just for a second? I have a break coming up. William Wooditch is our guest. We are all ears with this subject because, like William said, we all are selling all the time. Always Forward is the name of the book. We'll be right back and continue our conversation after the weather and a few commercial announcements. This is The Source, WOCA.
weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Wednesday, mostly sunny, breezy, and chilly. High 56 to 60. Clear and cold Wednesday night with lows in the 30s. Sunshine tomorrow, a little milder in the afternoon with a high of 60 to 64. Friday, partly sunny and becoming warmer with a high of 70 to 74. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Looking to put your money to work? Florida Credit Union has 3 CD specials. 12 months for 1.05% APY, 24 months for 1.50% APY, and 36 months for 1.75% APY each with a $10,000 minimum. Federally insured by the NCUA. APY equals annual percentage yield. These rates effective through February 28, 2016, subject to change at any time. Visit one of Florida Credit Union's convenient locations today or their website at flcu.org.
Beautiful Moments Party Rental presents the Ocala Wedding and Events Expo 2016 on March 3rd. This event has caterers, photographers, florists, musicians, plus food, fun, and more. Brides bring your bridesmaids and friends alike. 100% of the ticket sales goes to the Inflammatory Breast Cancer Network Foundation, and they're only $15 each. So mark your calendars for March 3rd from 5 to 8:30 p.m. for the Ocala Wedding and Events Expo at Beautiful Moments Party Rentals, 3400 Southwest 60th Avenue. Questions, call 307-8180. That's 307-8180.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
Because music stirs up strong emotions, it makes it easier for our brain to store information about that event. Showering less will definitely help most people's complexions because hot showers melt away the oils that seal in moisture and keep skin supple. Dogs are man's best friend, right? But new research from Nature's Scientific Reports now shows that dogs also do nice things for other dogs.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
Veterans are the foundation upon which our freedom is built. Listen to The Source, WOCA, each Thursday at 9 a.m. to Veterans News with Hank Whittier from Vets Helping Vets. You'll hear tributes, information on veterans issues, and stories that will make you laugh, cry, and feel proud. Veterans News always focuses on the military, past and present, and on our first responders. Veterans News is brought to you each week by Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens and Nursery, keeping you blooming since 1952. All right, 12 minutes before 11 o'clock, and I was just chatting with William Wooditch off the air, and so we kind of decided together. I wanted to. I want this interview to be a service to our listeners. I want everybody out there who wants to sell to be able to learn how to sell better. That's absolutely my honest feeling, and so. But at the risk of sounding like I'm asking for myself, I think I will not only get an answer for myself, but maybe serve somebody else in the same time. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to tell my story, if you don't mind, William, okay?
Yes.
Okay, so years ago, I sold myself as a musician to colleges, and I did it by making phone calls all over the country, and I did pretty good at it. And I did exactly like you said. I established relationships with people. I would call them back. I got to know who their mothers were. I got to know that they had a boat that was damaged in a storm. And now fast forward to 2016. So Robin and I are now trying to do the same thing again. But in today's world, you have this thing called email. And everybody says, do it through email, do it through email. And it doesn't seem to be as effective as it was all those years ago when I did it the first time. With that information, give us some thoughts on that.
Because we've become so inured, so hardened to email exchanges that most of them go in a trash bin. Well, I was a little kid, about 5 years old, sitting on a living room floor watching the Philadelphia Eagles play the Pittsburgh Steelers, my favorite team, the Steelers, so I had to get a plug in there. My uncle, who was the greatest salesman I had ever met in my life, and to this day, was a top salesman for Union Carbide. He had this tie clip, and it was an acronym, and it had "You can't do good business sitting on your backside." And I said, Uncle Joe, what does that mean? What does that mean? And he said, Billy, you can't do good business sitting on your blank.
Right.
And I thought about it. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing we do in this company. We handle clients between $10 million and $1 billion in revenue. And the one thing that changes the whole dynamic is the personal touch. There's a chemistry in pressing flesh. There's a chemistry in meeting people, and you can't do it sitting behind your cubicle. You know, when I wrote the book, the first part of the book is to overcome fear. And we see salespeople slink down into their cubicles, or they are in the cushy confines of their chair. They close the office door. They send an email, sometimes to people 3 doors down, and sometimes to a client across the country, sometimes to a client down the street. And that's no way to transact business, that is actually a transaction, but it's no way to really conduct it. To conduct business as a person with people, you will change things. You will change the dynamic in your favor and tip it in your favor if you meet with people and press flesh, and that comes from being in person. So email, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of phone.
Okay, so then how is it that the Fortune 500 companies do so much business with television and radio ads?
You know, that's exposure and brand, and people buy brand and they buy safe, and that's the first thing you have to know in sales is what are you up against? A lot of people, we have this mechanism inside of us, and we don't, in our brain, in our instinct, we don't want to feel less than. We don't want to be ostracized. We go back to the days of our ancestors, and if to be ostracized was to be subject to peril, to death from the saber-toothed tiger or other tribes. So we had to stay in lockstep. So there's that little lizard brain in us that does not want us to risk ourselves. But risk is the only place where growth can happen. But we don't want to risk it, so we pick brand safe. A risk manager at a Fortune 500 company can say, look, they're on commercials. Look at the exposure. Look, we bought from the biggest. They have to be the best. Because he's risking his 401k, his prestige, probably his job if he makes a choice that's not safe.
So in other words, what you're saying is advertising is important, but getting out there and selling. Okay, so let's say I see an ad for a car on the Super Bowl, and I go to the car dealership. So now the brand has been emblazoned in my brain, so I feel safe. Now I go there. Now I'm more likely to listen to the salesman.
I think there's two things there. I think the one creates awareness, and that's advertising, which I am a big believer of the right kind of advertising, absolutely. But in our business, we don't sell from advertising. I think it's great exposure for us. It's great awareness, and it leads to, oh, you're the guys with the, and they talk about our brand, the horse, they know who it is. So you have some exposure. You have some form of awareness of who you are. Absolutely. But to actually tip the sale when it comes down to people deciding, and at the end of most conference room tables are next and cheek to cheek on the conference room table seats, it's a person that has to pull the trigger.
And that's where networking plays a huge role in community if you're not just a small business, but a large business as well.
Yes, Robin, huge believer in networking. And networking is testimonials for us. That those are things that clients or people write about us that we don't ask for, because credibility comes from three sources. It's either inferred, I think you guys are great on the radio. Someone told me you're really good. You've been around for a long time. Or it's referred. Someone told me, hey, go talk with them. They're great hosts. Or it's something I've experienced, which is what I'm doing now. So I'm going to tell everybody how great you are. That's where credibility comes from. But that's networking, testimonials, exposure through advertising. But I think we have to get out and press flesh and make things happen face to face.
Do the secrets of sales success require you to know the product inside and out?
That's a great question. I believe that confidence is the first thing that has to enter the room. Confidence is then followed by competence. People aren't going to assess your competence unless they feel your confidence. And it has to come from a well of self-belief that is imbued with conviction and purpose. You got to believe in yourself. They're buying the messenger before they ever even listen to the message. When I started, and I would say this is probably an indictment of me, and maybe don't follow me, I didn't know much about the product, but I knew a whole lot about what I wanted to do, and I believed in myself. I believed that I could make something happen for these people. And they felt it, and they thought, this guy sounds crazy. Maybe he looks a little crazy, but we're just going to see. We're just going to see if he can actually do it. So I tipped the balance by at least some people were open to the experience. So that was very important to me. I didn't know much about the product. I will tell you now, at the risk of my coworkers finding out if they hear this, I probably know less than anyone in here about the product.
So how do you? One of the hardest things sometimes is closing the deal. Is there a secret to that?
There is. There's a movie, and I don't know if you're going to bleep me on this one, but it's Glengarry Glen Ross, and Alec Baldwin's got a famous scene, and he's in there as these ABCs, always be closing, right? But he's talking about going in there and going for the throat right away. Closing today is a series of incremental small steps toward yes. Small small steps. It's the same as in football. We just got through with the Super Bowl. You don't want to start out first down, second down in long yardage because you're going all the way to close on the very first call. You've got to get a relationship where you're moving always forward toward yes, but it's a series of small closes. In a lot of cases with clients who are repeat customers, you have to treat that customer as if it's your most intense, hottest prospect. Always work them as a prospect because you're always moving to yes, the next renewal, the next buy, the next purchase. Everything is next, and it's small steps. Just sit down and go for the throat. On the very first call, you end up with a no, and it's very difficult to overcome no. It's easy to get soft yes. Soft yes. Can I send you something? Can I call you on this? Do you perceive a value? Are you receiving value? If not, I'll go away. Kind of a dissonance where you're almost stepping back and not pulling. You're pulling them. You're not pushing.
You mentioned.
You're getting me all fired up now. I'm ready to go sell. I'm ready to go out there.
Oh, I'm telling you.
There you go. This is great.
You're getting me fired up too. You mentioned confidence and competence earlier, and you've already established that for me as regarding your understanding of selling, and so much so that I just went to Amazon and I see you have 20 reviews. You have a 5-star rating. And people are saying some really good things about this book. Plus, I see that it's available as a Kindle, which is good for me because that's what I want. I want to get the Kindle. So you already sold at least one book to me.
Hey, it was the bestseller on Kindle. I got to plug that one too. Let me talk to you about understanding because I didn't want to get away from this, Larry and Robin. I think this is one of the most important things I can give your listener. One of the most important things I try to enroll here with my coworkers is we can't be all things to all people, at least not at all times. I call this the rule of 33 1/3%, and it's in the book. We have to understand that for the most part, we have a base of people out of the 66 2/3 who are open to listening to our message. But 33 1/3% of that population is never going to buy from us. They're not going to believe us, our product. They just don't want to buy. And so we try to turn everything into a yes, and we spend a whole lot of time not qualifying opportunity. We just have conversations, and we think that every conversation is going to end up in a yes, and that we can actually proselytize or turn people to our way. We can't. That's where activity rules success is married to the rule of 33 1/3%. The more people we meet, the bigger our base of those 66 2/3% that can vote for us. We've got to win the middle states. The blue is going to vote one way, the red's going to vote one way, but the ones in the middle, that's the people we have to get. And the more base, the more activity, the more we can do.
The book is called Always Forward, and William Wooditch has done a great job selling the book, and in this case, it's a good thing because it shows you that he knows how to sell, and he can show you how to sell too. Discover the 7 Secrets of Sales Success is the subtitle of the book. I found it on Amazon, so I know it's there. All I did was put Always Forward and then William's last name, which is Wooditch. So Always Forward Wooditch, and you'll find it right there. Do you have a website as well?
I do. I've got, you can think next act now is www.billwooditch, one word, billwooditch.com. So it's www.billwooditch.com. You'll see me in action jumping around the stage and doing all kinds of stuff that you probably imagine just that I'm doing in this office right now.
Do you look back on your early days and see things that you don't do anymore because you learned not to?
Yes. That's actually an excellent question. You know what I learned to do is I learned to take my ego and put it in perspective because life has a way of truing that up for you if you don't. You know, it's like the Cam Newton thing. That sometimes you build an image, and all of a sudden the world has a way of coming back and hubris, which is the Greek word for arrogance, is met with nemesis. And you learn to keep your ego in perspective. You learn that it's not about you. You learn it's about others. You learn the way of increase. You learn there's enough for all of us. So instead of going out and competing every day to try to take out your opponent, you can work with people. And it's really not opponents. It's just all one and the same. I think we can work together.
I love that philosophy. I loved having this interview with you, William. Thank you so much for being on the air with us today. Again, the book, Always Forward. Go to billwooditch.com or Amazon or any of the booksellers. Thank you.
I'm going to a deli, too.
I think I will, too. All right, we'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. A day after the New Hampshire primaries, White House hopefuls gearing up for the next contest. South Carolina for Republicans, Nevada for Democrats.
Donald Trump didn't just win the New Hampshire Republican primary. He won every demographic group by double digits. It was a mirror image on the Democratic side, as Bernie Sanders beat Hillary Clinton among nearly every demographic group.
Fox Radio's John Decker. Stocks edging higher on Wall Street after Fed Chair Janet Yellen says the central bank will be